Hello, welcome to Revenant Reads. I'm Vin, and this is my pile of possibilities for the second quarter of Historathon 2023. So, Historathon 2023 is a year-long reading event where myself and some great co-hosts, we are reading, talking about, celebrating, and encouraging the reading of nonfiction history. As I said, a year-long event. We have divided the year into 4 quarters, each quarter being 3 months long, and each of those 3-month spans look at a different period of history. We are coming to the end right now as I speak of quarter one, which looked at prehistory up to 500 CE, and we are now entering quarter two, which goes from 500 CE up to 1500. So in European terms, we're talking mostly the Middle Ages, but of course, anybody who wants to participate can really read whatever they want. We're really just encouraging nonfiction history. So if you want to read about other parts of the globe, certain aspects of civilization, certain figures, it really doesn't matter. Myself, personally, I am sort of you'll see in my reflected reading, I do really like the European Middle Ages, especially the early Middle Ages. So I'm going to be very heavy with that. I do have some other books that I could have brought into this pile, but I don't necessarily have access to. I am sticking personally with books that I already own, and especially the books that are on this bookshelf behind me. Those are the ones that I have opened. So back last fall, I had moved into a new house. I am currently inside my unfinished office. It's the only room in the house that is still unfinished, but it's going to be unfinished until we can buy proper furniture for in here to really set it up. Right now, it's just kind of extra furniture and stuff that's in here that, this is a very temporary situation, the way everything looks. But this is also my private space and where I actually get to film. Although you'll probably be able to hear my kids playing in the next room. My daughter's room is like right over there, and I think right now they're both pretending that my son and my daughter pretending that they're the Avengers. So I think that they're pretending to fight bad guys and stuff. So I'm hearing occasional bangings and things about Iron Man and Thor occasionally, and you might be able to hear that bleed through from the from the other room. So the books that I actually have on my shelf they're all strictly European. I know I have a book on Genghis Khan that I still need to read. However, that is somewhere, you can see these boxes here behind me. I've got about 11 boxes filled with books from the move. I don't know which box it's in, and I'm not going to go through all the boxes just to find it. So I am sticking with the books that I have access to, and then when I have room, I'm opening up boxes and putting stuff out there. But I'm not going to go searching through boxes. So this is the pile that I have next to me right off camera. This is what I'm sticking with for this quarter. So let's begin. April, the first month of this quarter, I am pretty much making all about Vikings and the Viking Age. April is also another a booktube event that I really like called Saga Long, where it's basically a read-along of Icelandic sagas. And there are 2 sagas that are going to be read, and I should actually go grab them real quick so I can show them off. All right, so I'm back with the sagas. So Saga Long, once again, reading Icelandic sagas. Usually a particular saga is chosen each year. This year, they have 2. It's kind of an either or you can do both. So they have one longer saga, which is the saga of Gregor the Strong, or you've got the saga of King Rolf Kraki. I am just going to read both of these. I love reading sagas, and this fits right in with Historathon, okay, reading medieval texts. So this is going to be a big part of my April Historathon reads. And of course, this is essentially what we're talking about is still Viking Age. These were written actually down. They were written down after the Viking Age, but they largely deal with the Viking Age, or I think in this case, the period right before the Viking Age, but it's the same culture, same civilization. So for me, April is going to be all about Vikings and the Viking Age, these included, but also I plan to read a few other books here. So I am going to read this one, which I love the cover design of this one. I think it looks great. The Age of the Vikings by Anders Winroth. This is one that I have seen recommended on Jackson Crawford's channel. He has a pretty prolific YouTube channel. He was an academic who specialized in Old Norse language. However, I think he's kind of a full-time booktuber now. He's kind of left the academic world, and he's making educational videos for the masses, a lot of things about linguistics, and a lot of his videos are also sponsored by Grimfrost, which is a Scandinavian company which specializes in kind of Viking products, and especially kind of period-accurate Viking reproductions. And he has quite often mentioned this as a really good introductory text. So I thought, I'll give this one a shot. Last year I had read Neil Price's Children of Ash and Elm, which had a much more archaeological approach, and I really like that. And I'm not entirely sure about Winroth's background. It does say that he's a professor of history at Yale University. I don't know if his approach is going to be archaeological or more on textual evidence, but we'll see. If Jackson Crawford kind of recommends it, I figured this would be a nice way to kick off my Viking reading for the most part for April. And I plan to follow it up with a Viking, I guess you could say, biography. And that is this one, The Last Viking, The True Story of King Harald Hardrada by Dan Hallway. I know that there are some other people participating in Historathon that are also planning to read this. I've known about Hardrada for a while. When I got my bachelor's degree in history, I did my kind of undergraduate thesis on King Harold Godwinson, the last Anglo-Saxon king. And before he went and fought William, who became William the Conqueror and lost to Hastings, he won at the Battle of Stamford Bridge, where King Harold Hardrada was killed. Definitely, you know, from what I understand, the most feared Viking of his day. And, you know, the Stamford Bridge really marks the end of the Viking Age. So his death kind of ends it all, it seems. So I'm looking forward to this. This was sent to me a while back by Steve Donahue. He was kind enough to send me this and a couple other Viking books that I just don't think I'm going to get to this quarter, but they're actually somewhere on the shelf over there, but I will eventually get to them. But this is the one that I definitely want to get to in April. So I'm really looking forward to this. And another one I'm going to try to get to in April, I'm going to see how things go, is this one. Not quite Viking, but Viking Age. So the year 1000, when explorers connected the world and globalization began, by Valerie Hansen, who is also another professor at Yale. The back of this definitely gave me cause for concern at first, but I've read a lot of reviews that are very positive and about the scholarship, and really it's about, you know, trade routes around the year 1000 and the global connections that were being made, and the Vikings are included in this. But it doesn't just stop there. But the back said things like, you know, okay, so I'll just read a portion of the back. It said, people often believe that the years immediately prior to AD 1000 lacked major cultural developments or geopolitical encounters. Europe was in the Dark Age, and the most impressive feat of Western sea travel was the Vikings' invasion of Britain. But is that true? How, then, to explain the presence of blonde-haired people in Maya temple murals at Chichen Itza, Mexico? Could it be possible the Vikings have found their way to the Americas during the height of the Maya Empire? I think that's kind of a sensationalist description on the back. It doesn't seem like that's really what the book is about. I think it's just a way to whet people's appetites, maybe, and get them to buy it. Because that sounds, you know, a little bit more pseudo-history in some ways. You know, kind of the little more of a Graham Hancock level of all these things being connected. But like I said, I've read some really good reviews, and you know, Valerie Hansen is a professor at Yale, so I'm trusting that we're actually going to get some really good scholarship in history in this. It's not all going to be about blonde-haired Vikings in the Mayan world. But anyhow, just to give me a wider context into the way the world was in the Viking Age. So this is one that I'm hoping to get to in April. And then in May, I plan to read this one. This is something that I got from Princeton University from their recent sale that they had. I'm technically on a book buying ban until I read 50 copies of, or 50 books that I already own, and then I'll be able to kind of go on more spending sprees if I choose to. The one exception that I made to that, well, I do have a couple exceptions. One of them is that I buy things for read-alongs or buddy reads, you know, the different booktube events, so I can participate in those. But this was really just something of an indulgence, but I thought that the deal was too good to pass up. And one of the ways I justify it is that if I'm bringing these books into my household, I will read them. I have to read them really before the end of the year. So this is the one that fits mostly with the medieval age. So The Devil Wins, A History of Lying from the Garden of Eden to the Enlightenment by Dallas Denary, maybe a second. And this one, it seems kind of hard to explain. This is more like a theological history. And it looks like the attitudes towards lying changed from early Christian era up through the Middle Ages and into the Enlightenment. And the changes in attitudes and justifications for lying sort of reflect the changing times and the mores. So this is not the kind of thing that I generally have read much about. I mean, I've read some religious history, but this seems a little bit more theological in nature. We've got like a chapter called, sorry, I don't think you can see that, but Can God Lie? On Lions, Fishhooks, and Mousetraps. Luther, Calvin, and the Hidden God. And before that, we've got The Devil's Lie from Antiquity to the Middle Ages. The Prince of This World, From Satan's Stratagems to Human Nature. So I'm anticipating this looking at a lot of different writers, especially Christian writers, from around 1,000-year or so period, and what they think about lying. And I'm saving this for May because that is also another booktube event that I really like. Hopefully it's going on this year, but it's called Maybe Midrash. And that is where we look at religion, religion in books. So generally the challenge is to read a nonfiction book about religion and a fiction book that deals with religion, and books which deal with them seriously. I am not a religious person at all, but I am interested in the history of religion and also the effects that it has on our society, past and present. So this will fit in very nicely for me for maybe Midrash, and it'll also cover the Middle Ages. So this is my May read, I think. Another one that I don't know, I might get to in May, but one that I want to read for this quarter, although it fits multiple quarters, is this one. John Keegan, The Face of Battle, a study of Agincourt, Waterloo, and the Somme. So we have 3 different wars, and John Keegan, this was published, it's an older book, this was published in the 70s, I believe, yeah, 74, I think. But he basically looks at the experience of the soldier, experience of battle, in 3 different time periods. Now, of course, the Battle of Agincourt would fit with quarter 2. I know that, I've looked through, he's had some maps, some images. There you can see a skull with a male coif, it looks like, on. And, this is a topic that seems incredibly interesting. I'd love to learn more about the Battle of Agincourt. I could read this in also quarter, really, I guess, I guess quarter 3 or 4, if I'm remembering my dates correctly. But I think I want to get it done in quarter 2 because I have a lot of other books that will fit with the other 2 quarters. And this is what I've been wanting to get to for a while. So I'm going to try and use this as an excuse to get to it finally. And again, May is kind of where I'm going to try and fit this in. And then we got June. We'll have the last month. And I have 3 thick books here. I'm not going to get to all of them. I want to at least get to one of them. So we will see. These are my options. And these deal with a little more the later Middle Ages, which I do not know as much about. My main interest is in the early Middle Ages, especially what would be considered the Dark Ages, the Anglo-Saxon culture, Viking culture, that sort of thing, early Germanic cultures. So the later Middle Ages, I know some things about, but I consider that, or at least a lot of that, blind spots. I know some things about the Crusades, but I don't know a lot. So one option that I have here is The Crusades, The Authoritative History of the War for the Holy Land by Thomas Asbridge. Okay, so a single volume and something of a chunker. Got over 600 pages. So this is one possibility for June. And then I also have 2 books by Dan Jones, who looks to be a very popular pick among people for quarter 2. So one of them that I have is The Plantagenets, the warrior kings and queens who made England. I know a lot of people are planning on reading this during the quarter, and I have to say, I don't know a lot about the Plantagenets. So, basically I know some stuff from if Shakespeare wrote about them, I kind of know about them, but I don't know a lot. The timeline for the Plantagenets, in my mind, is highly muddled. So hopefully reading this will help to remedy that. But I could also read, which would also kind of, I think, help me with it, another Dan Jones, one of the more recent ones, I believe. This one, Powers and Thrones, A New History of the Middle Ages. Another one that I think people are looking to read, and I know that I've seen one of my co-hosts, Erica, over at Passage of Time. She spoke very highly of this, and she is somebody who is more into the later Middle Ages. So, again, she doesn't know as much about the early Middle Ages as I do, and I don't know as much about the later Middle Ages. So this is another possibility for June. I don't know exactly which one I'm going to get to. I'll probably decide when it comes time to start picking one in June, which one I really feel like. It'll probably end up being one of the Dan Joneses, but I don't know which one I'm going to grab. Again, whichever one I guess is speaking to me in the moment. But that's my pile. That's my pile of possibilities. I'm hopeful that I'll get through most of these. These last three are the ones that I'm not entirely sure which one I'm going to get to. But the other ones, I'm pretty sure I will. So I have quite a pile here in front of me. I'm going to do my best to hold it up, and we'll see. So, possibilities. Okay, I'm definitely going to read some sagas. Those are on the bottom. I got the Vikings. I've got the Last Viking about Harold Hardrada. Can't speak. The Year 1000, The Devil Wins, The Face of Battle, The Crusades, The Plantagenets, and Powers and Thrones. If you've read any of these, I would certainly love to hear your opinion, what you think about them, what I can expect. And if you are going to participate in Historathon, please let me know what you're going to be reading. You could always join the Voxer group. You can join the Discord server. The links for all those things will be down in the description. We'd love to have you. We'd love to hear what you're reading and what you're thinking and what you're learning. So, as always, thank you, BookTube.